Okay, I'm going to introduce Dr. Karen Treisman now. Karen is a highly specialist clinical psychologist who has worked in the National Health System and Children's Services for many years. Karen also specialises in supporting organisations and systems to work towards becoming trauma-informed and trauma-responsive. She was awarded the 2018 Psychology Professional of the Year Award for Excellence in Attachment and Trauma, and she's Youth Psychology Professional of the Year 2020. She's author of many amazing books and resources on working with trauma, including the best-selling book, The Therapeutic Treasure Box, and 3 sets of therapeutic card decks. And she presents at conferences nationally and internationally on trauma, parenting and attachment, and she's also a TEDx speaker. And actually her bio goes on far more than this. I've had to edit it down. It could go on for a lot longer. She's an incredible woman, and we're delighted to welcome her here so she can add poetry to her very impressive bio. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Jo. Firstly, just to say something to Sally, as always, Sally, just unbelievably powerful and moving. You're a hard act to follow. I'm actually really anxious, even though I talk all the time. I am not a poet. I haven't written a poem since I believe I was 8 years old. After this event in May, I was so inspired. And Jo got in touch and said, how would you feel about a poem? And I decided to step out my comfort zone because I need to model the model, and I can't tell other people to do that if I don't. So I am going to read. I apologise for not performing, but really, really pleased to be part of this. So my poem's called Trauma Reducing, not Trauma Inducing. And it's about how do we create systems that are humanised? How do we start putting relationships at the heart? So here we go. Trauma, oppression, privilege and social injustice are the elephants in the room. Their impact and intersectionality can colour one's kaleidoscope from their womb to their tomb. To see the whole person, their story, their world, and to not reduce them to a label, and to magnify, celebrate and learn from people's survivorship, strengths, resources and what they truly bring to the table. As Alexander Den Heijer says, if a flower doesn't bloom, fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. We need to widen our lens to incorporate inequality, oppression, discrimination, poverty and abuse of power. Cultural humility is needed with a commitment to learning and critical evaluation through proactive responsiveness and active knowledge seeking and education, where systems need to be healthy and reflective instead of reactive and trauma-inducing. We need our systems to be brick parents who work towards and are committed to be trauma-reducing. Instead of fragmented and disconnected systems, they should prioritise humanity and mutuality. Having systems in survival modes themselves, now that is insanity. Systems which value human rights and do everything they can to protection. Ones which focus on healing relationships which are committed to connection. We need to see the layers and the richness throughout people's inner and outer Russian dolls. To notice, respect and honour the multi-layered reasons for some of those painful holes. We need to see trauma as the piercing force which it can be to wound and to hurt the soul. The responses from services can be re-triggering, harmful and catapult people down a memory time hole. Trauma is the ultimate boundary violation and betrayal of trust. This is someone's story, someone's truth, not just a statistic in a policy collecting dust. We can't take down fences until we honour why they developed and why they needed to be there. There's a lot to be said about increasing safety, trust, openness and truly showing that you care. We can market, we can use buzzwords, we can try to talk the talk, but it's so much more than that. It's how we truly and meaningfully walk the walk. We need to humanise services and put relationships and connections at the very heart, infusing the values of curiosity, compassion, humanity and empathy. That would be an amazing start. Developmental and relational trauma require developmental and relational repair. And our communities and our system need to not marinate and soak us in a suffocating, traumatic fog and air. To see behaviours as survival needs and as signals rather than as a label, a deficit or a flaw. To see the whole person behind that behaviour who has the potential to grow and to soar. And remember, if the behaviour had a voice, what would it say? How can we see and appreciate the patchwork of colours and all those shades of grey? Maya Angelou says people will forget what you do and forget what you say, but they'll remember how you make them feel. It's not about othering and splitting. It's about being human, being kind, having humility and being real. We all need to feel valued, noticed, heard, listened to and seen, and to feel that we're the author of our own stories and the navigator of where we've been. The position has changed from it's not what is wrong with you, it's what has happened to you. We need to see the person within their wider context and all they've lived through. It's also not about what's the matter with you, but what matters to you. The puzzle pieces and the golden thread of identity, that answers the who. It's not about labelling, fitting people into boxes and shaming. It's about holding on to hope, to uniqueness, rather than splitting them and us and blaming. It's easy to get lost in silence, voices being neglected, voices being missing. Who's a heard and who's a speaking? How can we see things as attention needing instead of as attention seeking? It's so much more than words and talking therapies, as trauma is encoded in our bodies and in our senses. It's seeing the hurt, the pain, the moral injury behind and hidden beneath the defences, offences and fences. We need to find ways to connect, co-regulate and make it safe to unveil from the shame-ridden cloak. We need to hold, convey and anchor onto sparkle moments, connection and hope. Because every moment counts and every interaction can be an intervention. We need to make a vow to do no harm. That should be our most obvious intention. As the African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So let's join together like an orchestra of beating drums to not allow ourselves to be pushed aside like a floating feather. Thank you for your time, your energy, your presence and your listening ear. I'm honoured, humbled and privileged to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you.